Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Marvel Plus podcast, a show where we talk the Marvel shows on Disney Plus and how they connect to the MCU. My name is Brett, aka Enigma911, and you can catch the podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma911 every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You join the chat if you're a subscriber over there. We'd love to have you in on all the fun theory talks and thoughts as we go along. If you can't catch it live, that's a-okay. It's over on YouTube the very next day at 12 noon Eastern. You can check it out over there. Just search Enigma911. Give it a watch, give it a listen, and we would appreciate you for it. So yes, today we are talking about Daredevil, still season 1. We're talking about episode 4, In the Blood. Similar to the past couple of Daredevil episodes, we got a couple different storylines going on throughout this episode. So to try and minimize the amount of jumping back and forth that we've done in previous episodes, once we get onto a certain storyline, we're going to try and follow that all the way through unless there's a connecting point from another storyline later on. So we do have 3 kind of main story events, lines that are going on during this episode. We're going to have, obviously, Matt Daredevil's storyline along with Claire. We are going to have Fisk and what he's been up to, and we are going to have Karen and Ben figuring out the story that they want to tell and kind of get the information out to the public. So I think I'm going to start with Karen and Ben just because it is the most streamlined. Then we'll go with Fisk up until a point, and then we'll get on to our main cast of Matt and Claire and figure out what happened with them in this episode, because it is quite a bit. So to open up this episode, to start off first, this episode's going to focus heavily also on the Russians and their dealings in Hell's Kitchen, along with, their relationship with Fisk. So we're going to open up this episode showing a little bit of a quick history of the brothers and how they were imprisoned in Siberia 8 years ago. So they have the history there and how they just, have been through thick and thin together. And then we'll cut quickly over to present day and see that they are still dealing with the Daredevil and that problem of the masked man interfering with their operations and trying to deal with that still. So that will be our little preview for the main storyline. So on to Karen and Ben. What's going to go on with these two? So as we saw last episode, Karen has gone to Ben, who's part of the newspaper, the media, and is trying to get his assistance and trying to figure out more about Union Allied and the fishy business that has gone on there, and kind of share her side of the story, along with obviously reveal more and try and figure out the deeper inner workings that are going on in this business and what they're trying to cover up. So we'll see them follow up at a restaurant, kind of talking more about the issue. And they're talking more specifically about Karen's incident and how Daniel was murdered and what she went through and how this random masked man just kind of happened to arrive and help her out in this situation. And Ben seems kind of apprehensive to the story and her involvement in it. So he kind of not blows it off, but kind of says like, hey, leave this where it is, or like let it go. And he's done a lot of big stories obviously in the past. He's gotten older and a lot less stupid, I think was his wording that he's used. So he doesn't seem too interested in it. Karen's not happy with that situation, and Ben will eventually leave. So Karen's going to kind of take this into her own hands and try and get information where she thinks she can. So she's going to an auction where there's some stuff being sold, similar to Hawkeye. That's kind of funny. But she's going to stumble upon some Union Allied, I think it was files, computers. I don't remember exactly 100% what it was. But she's going to stumble upon these in the auction, and she's, instead of auctioning herself to try and buy the item, she's taking mental notes and drawing the individuals who are bidding upon these certain items to try and, okay, this older gentleman bid on it. Maybe he's the lead I need to chase after, follow him down to get more information. Ben is going to arrive at the auction and sit behind her. Says, don't turn around, don't make a big scene. And Ben kind of shares his information that he's had, obviously with the history of him doing this himself, and kind of getting intel like there's 2 other people in this auction that are not bidding at all. You have a woman to your right and you have a man a few rows ahead of you. These people are doing the same thing you're doing. So you got to kind of throw them off your scent, throw them off your trail, or else you're being too obvious, because they know they're there for a reason. But obviously with you being there and just kind of taking it all in, that throws up a red flag. So he recommends to her, bid on some stuff. Not that she has to buy it, but at least like get involved in the bidding process, and then maybe buy or win a smaller ticket item for herself, once again, to cover her tracks. She says, I don't have the money for that. He says, figure it out, but this is what you got to do. Meet up with me later and we'll discuss some more. So he leaves and she continues on with her plan. I think we're going to get one more follow-up between these two later on at the coffee shop. So they're going to meet up, talk about the information they have learned from the auction. It seems like Union Allied is buying back their stuff to try and cover up more of their trail and not have their information obviously get leaked out or go from there. Karen was able to win one of the auctions, and she won a fax machine and some printers from a company that was letting them go. She charged it to the law firm, so she's not too excited about how that will turn out with Foggy and Matt finding that out. But Ben mentions, all right, it's like these situations, these kind of stories, while they're great to get the information out, they're very high-risk situations. Informants in his past for certain stories that he has published, something usually bad would happen to them shortly after the information had gotten out. One man, I believe, was killed. Another guy left town but then was blackmailed, or false information was spread about him. And then he mentions one last informant, which Karen actually brings up, a woman that helped him out. And through Ben's story, it seems like that is his wife in the hospital. So potentially those events being connected, maybe that's the reason obviously she's in the hospital. We don't know 100%, but like I said, based on the information he was sharing and how he was sharing it, it seems to be that was the connection for that informant for that first story. So he's gonna end up leaving once again. But he's going to leave her with one more thing. He says, you need to sign the agreement, the non-disclosure with the Union Allied lawyer. Sign that and, protect yourself as much as you can. Karen's not about it, but he says, you need to sign it. It's fine that you don't say anything to the public, but I didn't sign anything. So he has agreed to obviously work alongside her and get this information out, but just wants her to cover her tracks as much as she can. So I believe that will be the last really big thing from these two. Karen will eventually run into Foggy at the office explaining where the tech has come from, the fax machine and the printers. Foggy's not all that upset with it due to an earlier conversation he'll have with Matt, which we'll allude to later on. So now we're going to go over to Fisk and his date. That is another storyline going on in this episode. This one, not too much information really to kind of divulge into. There is the important thing, I guess, that comes out of this date is Fisk is going to be embarrassed, and he's going to be revealed as someone more in power than he initially lets on with this woman. We see that it's the art dealer from the previous episode that he goes out. He asks on a date. Initially, she says no. Then they do go out. They have a nice dinner talking about his past, yada, yada, yada. Talked about the city. An incident is going to come up where he's going to get embarrassed, And like I said, we'll reveal that he is in a higher position than he had let on, as there are many plants in the restaurant to kind of protect him from anything that happens. And this will kind of make the art dealer apprehensive, not interested, thinks like she went on the date with him because he was different, but that difference may actually be too much or not what she thought, so she's going to kind of stop it in its tracks. As Mrs. G mentioned in chat, it was nice to see this side of Fisk, because it does show, yes, he is vulnerable. He was very timid throughout this whole situation, mentions like he doesn't do this often. I assume with his line of work, he doesn't have a lot of time to do it. So it is interesting that we're diving more into this character. Obviously, in the Hawkeye series, when he shows up, we don't get any information, and this is the first time we've had a full episode where he's been in, compared to last episode where he was finally shown and revealed. We only got that short scene at the end. So we're diving into his character and learning a little bit more about him. So yes, that is nice to see. But that's kind of all that we really got out of this date, was a little backstory, and then leading on to what will happen at the end of this episode that we'll kind of dive into with this third storyline of Matt and Claire. So, talked about the Russians. Matt's dealing with the Russians interfering with their trafficking organization. We're going to open up with Claire helping out Matt with some more injuries, some more stitches at her friend's apartment, I believe it was, who she's kind of house sitting for. We learn that she's taking time off and just kind of camping out, laying low while staying at this person's apartment and place. So we get some quick tidbits of information. Apparently the man that was thrown off of the roof in episode 2, apparently they're in a coma right now. This person will actually become important later on, and I believe their name was Piotr or something like that. So he's in a coma. He's in the hospital recovering. Great. Matt is going to get recovered once again from the stitches, get help with that, and he's going to hand a cell phone over to Claire. Just has a number in it. That's obviously his number. Says memorize this number. So if you see, it's calling, it's me. I'll, give you a little bit more heads up next time I stop in to get help, instead of just dropping in your window, etc. And then before he leaves, he's going to ask Claire about Wilson Fisk. Have you heard of him? Do you know anything about him? Because he can't find any information. He can't find anything online and can't find any public records on him. So this man is just a ghost. Claire says, no, I have no idea, and Matt will leave from there. So now over to the Russian side of things. We see them in a garage dealing with some taxis. So that must be part of their organization or business. And we're going to see the suited man arrive. And he's going to question the two Russian brothers that we had seen in the opening of what's going on. Like, why are your shipments running late or not the amount they had agreed on. And they talk about, still dealing with the masked man situation, not having any luck with that. And the suited man is going to offer help or assistance from Fisk. Fisk is trying to, extend this olive branch and help out. And one of the brothers is vehemently against this, because he knows if Fisk comes in to help, he's just going to take over the whole thing and just run it himself. So he mentions that the other parts of the group of Union Allied, or whatever the group is called, we get 2 name reveals. We get Madame Gao, I think it was, Madame Gao and Mr. Nobu. They're not happy with what's going on, because obviously they're part of the operation and all is connected, is getting affected by this. So they want, obviously, something to be done about this whole situation. We are going to get a quick little tease and Easter egg fun drop of Iron Man and Thor. They're curious why the situation isn't being held on to. If they were dealing with a man in an iron suit or a magical man with a hammer, they would understand a little bit better. But obviously they're just dealing with a masked man. So anyways, we see that go down. Russians aren't having it. Eventually, the masked man will leave, and the Russians are going to talk amongst themselves, saying they might have information from somebody, kind of referring to the gentleman in the hospital, saying he's sleeping. So it's time for him to wake up. So we're going to see them follow up with the man in the hospital. They're going to do the whole portrayal like, oh, we're just visiting our friend, bring the flowers, whatever. And they're going to wake up this man. I don't remember if it was an EpiPen or something like that, but some kind of drug, stab in his chest, get him, boosted up, adrenalized, whatever, so he can answer some questions. And he's able to give them the information they need. Masked man calls him the devil, and that there was a woman involved. And is able to tell them where the woman was staying. Obviously, he knows because he was the pretend cop going door to door trying to figure out where Daredevil had gone. We're going to see some other men break into Claire's apartment following this scene, and we will unfortunately see the young man that Claire had known arrive at her door, kind of seeing what is going on with this situation and why people are breaking into Claire's apartment. From here, we are going to meet up with Claire. She's at the friend's apartment. She's feeding the cat. She's allergic to the cat. And she starts hearing some weird noises outside of her door. So she gets a little scared, a little cautious. Grabs her phone, goes to check the door. Nothing's there. Just an old woman kind of pushing her little cart basket thing to her own apartment. Claire's like, whew, okay, thank goodness. Takes her allergy medicine, and we're going to see some shadowy stuff, presumably from the window, and trouble will follow here. We're going to follow up with Matt and Foggy, just hanging out. This is probably the most dialogue Foggy is going to get in this episode, as we'll only see him once more along with Karen, as we've alluded to. And they're kind of talking about their past. Foggy's mom wanted him to be a butcher, and this and that, and the definition of success. Did we do the right thing? Foggy has his doubts. And Matt's going to get a phone call as Foggy's leaving in a taxi. Matt picks it up, says, hey, 1 second. Foggy makes the joke, oh, is that a girl calling for you? Blah, blah, blah. How you get so lucky, etc. Leaves in the taxi. Matt is now concerned on the phone. It's Claire. Claire has called him, all in trouble. She's in a panic. She's obviously getting attacked, screaming, yah, yah, yah. Matt says, oh, fuck, in his head, and he books it for the apartment. This man must be very talented with the layout of this city, because he's able to run across streets, parkour up buildings, all this without his stick, and he's blind. Very impressive. Anyways, so he's making a move for the apartment, tries to make it to her in time to make the save, makes it to the apartment, but unfortunately is late. She is not there. He's frustrated and will follow up at her original. Oh, actually, attempts to listen in from the window to kind of get a lead of where they may be. Finds the taxi, or at least hears the taxi and the struggle. Tries to pursue, is able to make it to the main road, but unfortunately loses the trail there, obviously with all the things going around in the city. Now, he's going to follow up at her original apartment. Matt's going to meet up with the younger kid. I believe his name was Santino. And Santino's hurt as well and kind of shaken up from the whole incident. Matt says it's his own fault that this has happened. It's not Santino's fault at all. He's sorry got him involved. He's sorry Claire is involved. And is just trying to kind of get any kind of intel information from Santino that he can. Santino, once again being scared, says, I don't know. They didn't say anything. He threatened him and his mom if he did tell anybody. But does remember a taxi and does remember the company name for the taxi. So he'll share that information with Matt, and Matt will be able to locate where the Russians are. So Claire's in a rough spot here. She's been taken out of the trunk of the taxi. She's pretty beaten up. And they're going to set her down in a chair, and they're trying to essentially interrogate her. She's already been beaten up a bit. She's got some gashes. She's bloodied up. And we'll see a man with a pipe. They're trying to ask, what is Daredevil's name, what information she can give them, and she says, I know nothing, didn't say his name, and they're going to threaten her. They're almost going to hit her a few times with the pipe, but seemingly beat up the car instead, maybe just a mind games or whatever, but they're going to threaten her. The lights are going to go out in the garage, and they're going to turn on the car lights to kind of, get some lighting, while another man is going to go to the breaker box. From here, Daredevil's going to kind of take care of most of the situation around here by taking out the Russian group, or at least one of them at a time, stealthily, not letting the Russians know where he is, kind of using sound to his advantage, as making sounds obviously happen around the garage to distract them momentarily before he takes them out. Russians are going to go nuts. They're going to blast their guns everywhere, attempting to stop this man, but have no luck as they're doing this. While this whole situation is going on, Claire is going to attempt to make an escape herself, trying to free herself from the duct tape like handcuffs that she has around her wrists, along with her ankles. She's able to make some progress there and is attempting to escape herself, or at least get herself free. Daredevil's going to take them all out except for one. Claire's finally going to break free of the cuffs, but she's going to get grabbed by the last Russian that is there. He threatens to blow her brains out. Daredevil is going to threaten in return, just audio-wise, speaking in the garage through echoes. This is going to give him an opportunity to stop this man, able to disarm him, get him off of Claire. He's trying to find out one last bit of information from him, but Claire's going to take it into her own hands and knock the guy out with the pipe from there. Save the day. Yippee. Alright, so now they're going to leave because let's get out of here. The Russians, the brothers, are now going to reunite with this gang at the taxi garage. And they're trying to figure out what the fuck happened. Did you get any info? Did you get any intel? What's going on? Obviously you're hurt, etc. Guys didn't get anything. And then another informant is going to call the brothers saying that Fisk is out of hiding. He's on the move. They had somebody that was kind of keeping tracks of him, of where he was going. So they know he's out on the move. They can go follow up with him. And the one brother says, we should get help. Obviously, we're not handling this like we thought we could. The other brother, who was, apprehensive at first, still apprehensive, but finally is talked down and says, all right, go ahead. I don't know if it's just his pride. He doesn't want to strike down or whatever it is, but the other brother is going to go and try and ask for assistance for here. So now we get into the problematic part that I alluded to earlier, the embarrassment. This Russian man is going to find Fisk at his date, at the diner, at the restaurant, whatever. Simply going in to try and talk to him and ask for assistance. In doing so, all the plants at the restaurant react to this man trying to get to Fisk, kind of blow Fisk's cover of, the date that they're in, and kind of reveal that he's more than he's letting on to be. And that Russian brother is then going to be taken by Wesley, who is the suited man, into a car we'll have the discussion later. Boss will meet up with us. Okay, no problem. We're going to follow up in Matt's apartment one last time with Daredevil and Claire. And Matt's going to be kind of patching up, returning the favor for Claire now, dealing with her injuries on her head, stitches, patch-up jobs, or whatever. And he apologizes once again for the whole situation. They kind of get into talking about Matt's past and his father and how he's able to do this. And Claire has a moment where she has to kind of reassure Matt that he's doing the right thing. Matt's like, I don't know. Like, I wanted to make this city a better place, but obviously now innocent people are getting hurt. And that's not the point of this. The point of this is to take out the bad guys and not put other people in danger and risk. And Claire has to reassure him, like, this is the right thing to do. Like, you've saved so many people. Like, yes, unfortunately, this has happened to her and to Santino, but, you know, overall, this is helping and doing things in a positive way. She mentions she's scared, but he can help. And through this kind of, like, just connection that they have, this kind of vulnerability of sharing, like, I'm scared, you know, I'm not sure if I'm doing the right thing, Matt will finally feel comfortable enough that he will share his real name with her. So now Claire knows Matt is Matt. And then to wrap up this episode, we're going to see Wesley and the Russian brother in the car. We're talking about, you know, the masked man situation, how to deal with that. The car is going to stop. Russian's confused. Why are we stopping here? This is kind of odd. Wesley's going to get a phone call. Oh, yeah. Hey, boss. What's up? Yep, he's here in the passenger seat. Okay, cool. Big game. Hangs up. Passenger side door is going to open up, and Fisk is going to drag this Russian guy out and beat the shit out of him. Both are going to get into a fight. We're going to see the Russian pull a knife, attempt to slash at Kingpin. Doesn't do too much, does cut his suit, and does reveal a little bit of what I assume is the Kevlar or type of armor that he does have to protect himself. And Fisk, just being outraged at the embarrassment that he has faced, just lays it in on this guy, just beats the shit out of him, and will conclude this beatdown by taking this poor man's head, putting it in between the door and the car, and just repeatedly smashing and caving this guy's head in. Big yikes. Wesley will then hand Kingpin a handkerchief to wipe off the blood from his cheek. Kingpin will say he needs a new suit for Mr. Potter that needs to be replaced, because obviously this one is now exposed, and says, send the body back to the Russians. Wesley says, are you sure that's going to cause a war? And Kingpin will close out by saying, that's fine. That's what I'm counting on it. I'm counting on it starting this war. And that will be the end of this episode. Wow. Okay. So, a lot going on in the episode. Kind of easier to break it down, or at least keep everything in line when we don't hop around like we've done in the past. Karen and Ben, obviously they're doing, you know, what they can as the citizen route. So it's kind of interesting to see the attack on two sides. Obviously Daredevil doing his thing on the more physical side, while they're doing the correct thing, I guess you could say. I don't know. But it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to follow through what they want to do and hopefully stay safe while doing it. And then with Matt's stuff, like obviously he's still, you know, kind of processing what he's doing. He's obviously kind of been tunnel vision with, like, I'm just trying to do the right thing here, clean up the city, but now he's starting to see, like, the what's the word for it, the repercussions of his actions, or at least of what's happening here with the innocent people being hurt. And it might be just because, like, he's more connected to these people. Like, he hasn't had this before where Foggy's gotten hurt, or, I don't know, seemingly someone else he's close to being hurt. Now with Claire, Santino being in a vulnerable position, he's kind of feeling more guilty about that, so we kind of get to see that side as well. And then, yeah, we learn about a lot about Fisk in this episode, or at least his character, of how he has a lot of vulnerabilities and insecurities with himself, just trying to live this normal life in ways outside of his business and evil doing. Sounds weird, but like what he believes is going to make Hell's Kitchen a better place. And then obviously, like, him dealing with things not going the way he wants them to. Oh boy, yikes. And what kind of a threat he can be because of this. Mrs. G in chat asks, so is his suit made of something special? So as far as I know, his suit is usually some type of armor, maybe a Kevlar, something like that, along that lines, that can keep him protected. We talked about this a little bit in the Hawkeye episode, or the Hawkeye finale, when he goes into that fight with Kate, how she is able to do the shots with the arrows, but he's able to respond and not be affected too much. There are some other things, like he's not super soldier serum, but he is either has a lot of muscle mass to him, so he can take a lot of damage, and that's why he can also dish out a lot of damage. But he's not technically super powered in any way. He's just a dude. So I'm thinking, yeah, he wanted the new suit because that slash is there, so now it's exposed, hey, there's something underneath it. So there's that. It's kind of just it's a weird term to use, but a security blanket. Obviously he's got all the mob or the group protecting him at the restaurant, but then he's also got this kind of protection here with the suit itself. So that's essentially what the suit is doing for him and why that is significant. So yeah, we'll have to see where this goes from here. Moving forward, I wonder if we're going to follow up with the brother immediately. It seems like everything so far in these first 4 episodes have happened in a very short a very short time span, where we'll have follow-up even maybe the day after. I don't know if this has all been the same week so far, so we'll have to see how the brother responds and what that means for Fisk's side of things along with Daredevil's side of things. Is it just going to mean that they're going to be more aggressive and maybe a little less careful for how they cover the tracks, and that's going to kind of lead out into trouble for other people? Or is it going to be more of a 3-way dance here that will kind of help the situation with Daredevil? I don't know how that's going to work out. Another thing we'll have to watch out for, I think this season's 13 episodes. I could be wrong. But we'll have to see if maybe eventually we do follow up with the Madame Gao and Mr. Nobu, I think it was. See if we tackle their situation at all in this season. Obviously, overall, Daredevil has 3 seasons. We're just going to be focusing on the first season for now. So there is definitely a lot of time still left to do that, but I wonder when they will be involved more rather than just their introduction in the first episode as of part of the group. So yeah, we'll have to see where it goes from here. But this has been another episode of the Marvel Plus podcast. My name is Brett, aka Enigma9011. You usually catch this podcast live over on twitch.tv/Enigma9011 every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You join the chat. If you're a subscriber over there, we'd love to have you. But if you can't catch it live, that's A-OK. It drops over on YouTube. Just search Enigma9011 the very next day, or drops at 12 noon Eastern. You check it out over there, and let us know what you thought of the show and what's going to happen in the comments down below. So, yes, next week we're going to be talking about episode 5, so make sure you guys do your homework for that. We got one last question in chat right now. Is Daredevil still running, or is it only 3 seasons? It is only the 3 seasons. I believe it wrapped up in 2018 or 17, something like that. So the Netflix series have ended. They had 3 seasons of Daredevil, I believe possibly 2 seasons of Jessica Jones, 1 of Cage, 1 of Iron Fist. They had a Defenders season, which is all of them together, and then we also had another series of Punisher. Will we explore these other series down the road? Potentially, if we have another lull in Disney Plus shows like we have now since Hawkeye till Moon Knight at the end of March, especially with Daredevil specifically. I'd like to see where this goes, but as of continuity and story-wise, there are certain, at least based on release order, there are certain events that would take place ahead of season 2 as far as I know, so we'll have to do some research as we get to that point. But as of right now, yes, all of the Netflix series are wrapped up. Those rights are now back in Marvel's hands, which is how we were able to get Daredevil in Spider-Man No Way Home, and then Wilson Fisk, Kingpin, over in Hawkeye's side of things. But thanks for hanging out today, guys. Thanks for giving this a watch, giving it a listen, and we will see you guys on the next one. Take care.